Damien Sinclair adjusted his custom-tailored charcoal suit as he stepped out of the limousine onto the cobblestone streets of Paris. At 38, he had everything a man could want: a thriving technology company worth hundreds of millions, a penthouse in Manhattan, and an engagement to Vanessa Pierce, one of New York's most photographed socialites. Yet as he looked up at the Eiffel Tower gleaming in the afternoon sun, something felt hollow inside his chest. The International Tech Summit was scheduled to begin tomorrow morning, but Damien had arrived a day early. He told his assistant it was to adjust to the time difference, but the truth was simpler and more complicated. He needed space to breathe, away from the constant demands of board meetings and wedding planners. Vanessa had been furious when he suggested she skip this trip. Her exact words echoed in his mind: "Paris without me." "Damien, darling, that's practically a crime. But fine, I have 3 photo shoots scheduled anyway. Just don't make any decisions about the wedding venue without me." Everything with Vanessa was a negotiation, a transaction disguised as romance. When had their relationship become another item on his business agenda? The unexpected meeting, the narrow streets of Le Maire, beckoned with their old-world charm. Damien dismissed his driver, preferring to walk and clear his head. He wandered past art galleries and vintage bookshops until the aroma of fresh coffee and pastries drew him toward a small cafe, tucked between 2 historic buildings. Café Raves had mismatched chairs, walls covered in local artwork, and only 6 tables. It was the opposite of the sleek, minimalist restaurants Vanessa preferred, and Damien loved it instantly. He ordered an espresso and claimed a table by the window. That was when he saw her. She sat at the corner table, surrounded by fabric swatches and sketches. Her dark curly hair pulled into a messy bun with a pencil stuck through it. She wore paint-splattered jeans and a simple white blouse, no designer labels in sight. But it was her expression that caught his attention. Pure concentration mixed with joy as she worked on her designs. When the waiter accidentally bumped her table, sending her coffee cup tipping dangerously close to her sketches, Damien acted on instinct. He crossed the cafe in 3 strides and caught the cup before disaster struck. "Oh my goodness, thank you." Her voice carried a warm American accent with hints of something else, maybe Southern roots. Her eyes were the color of rich mahogany, and when she smiled, Damien forgot why he had been feeling so empty moments before. "No problem. Those designs look too beautiful to be ruined by coffee." He set the cup safely on the table. She laughed, a genuine sound that seemed rare in his world of calculated responses. "You can actually see what they are? Most people just see chaos. They see dresses. Evening wear, if I am guessing correctly. And unless I am mistaken, you are using sustainable materials." He pointed to one of her fabric swatches. Her eyebrows rose in surprise. "You know about sustainable fashion?" "My company invests in green technology. I've learned to recognize eco-friendly materials." He extended his hand. "Damien Sinclair. Colette Morgan." Her handshake was firm and confident. "And yes, these are designs for my boutique. I create custom pieces using only sustainable and ethically sourced materials." Without quite understanding why, Damien found himself asking, "May I join you?" Conversations that matter what started as a polite 5-minute chat stretched into 2 hours. Damien learned that Colette had moved to Paris 3 years ago, chasing a dream of building a fashion brand that proved style and sustainability could coexist. She worked from a small studio in Montmartre, designing for clients who valued craftsmanship over mass production. "So you left everything behind in America to pursue this?" Damien asked, fascinated by her courage. "Not everything. I left behind a corporate job that was killing my soul, an apartment I could barely afford, and a boyfriend who thought my dreams were cute hobbies." Colette stirred her 3rd coffee, her eyes distant. "My grandmother always said that if you are not scared of your dreams, they are not big enough. So here I am, terrified every day and loving it."
Amen.
Felt something twist in his chest. When was the last time he had done something that scared him? Everything in his life was calculated, measured, and safe. "What about you?" Colette leaned forward, her chin resting on her hand. "What brings a technology CEO to a tiny cafe in Le Maire instead of some fancy hotel bar?" "Honestly, I was hiding." Her laugh was unexpected. "From what?" "Business rivals. Paparazzi. From my own life, the words slipped out before Damien could stop them, surprising him with their honesty. Colette's expression softened. That is a feeling I understand. Sometimes we build lives that look perfect from the outside but feel empty on the inside. Exactly. Damien found himself relaxing in a way he had not in months. Everyone sees the success, the money, the perfect relationship, but they do not see the constant pressure, the compromises, the feeling that you are playing a role instead of living a life. Perfect relationship. Colette's eyes drifted to the platinum band on his left hand. You are engaged. Yes, the word felt heavy. To Vanessa Pierce. The wedding is in 5 months. Let me guess. She is beautiful, successful, and perfectly suited to your lifestyle. How did you know? Colette smiled sadly. Because I used to date the male version of that. Someone who looked perfect on paper, but felt wrong in my heart. The question is, what does your heart tell you? Before Damien could answer, his phone buzzed with a message from Vanessa. Just book the plaza for the reception. 800 guests. It will be spectacular. Miss you, I suppose. Casual dismissiveness of I suppose said everything about their relationship. The evening continues as the cafe began closing for the evening. Colette gathered her materials. I should get going. Thank you for the rescue and the conversation, Damien. It was lovely meeting you. Wait. Damien stood quickly, his heart hammering. I know this is forward, but I am in Paris for the next week. Would you possibly have time to show me the real Paris? Not the tourist version, but the city you love. Colette studied him carefully, and Damien felt like she could see straight through all his defenses. You are engaged, I know, and I am not interested in being anyone's distraction or secret. That is not what this is. Damien ran his hand through his hair, frustrated with himself. I just had the first honest conversation I have had in months, maybe years, and I would like to have more of them. As friends, no expectations, no complications. Just two people enjoying Paris. I'll let Bitterlip, clearly debating. As friends? As friends, Damien promised, though even as he said it, he wondered if he was lying to them both. Okay, meet me tomorrow at noon at the Pont des Arts. I will show you the Paris that tourists miss. After she left, Damien sat alone at the table, staring at his phone. He should call Vanessa. He should confirm details about the wedding. He should do 100 things that would move his perfectly planned life forward. Instead, he ordered another espresso and watched the Paris evening come alive outside the window. Wondering what tomorrow would bring? The first doubt back at his luxury hotel that night? Damien stood on the balcony, overlooking the Seine. His suite was everything money could buy. Marble bathrooms, Egyptian cotton sheets, a view that cost more per night than most people earned in a month. His phone rang. Vanessa's face appeared on the screen, perfectly made up even for a video call. Darling, I have been trying to reach you for hours. Where have you been? Just walking around the city? I needed some air. Well, I have news. I spoke to the wedding planner, and she thinks we should go with the orchid centerpieces instead of roses. They photograph better. And I confirmed with my publicist that we will have exclusive coverage with Vogue. Isn't that exciting? Damien listened to her talk about seating arrangements and dress fittings, and realized she had not asked him a single question about his day, his thoughts, or his feelings. Their entire conversation was about appearances and arrangements. Vanessa, do you ever wonder if we are getting married for the right reasons? The question created a long pause. When she spoke again, her voice was cool. What kind of question is that? We are perfect together, Damien. Everyone says so. We are building an empire, a brand. This is bigger than just feelings. But what about love? Love, she laughed, but it sounded brittle. Love is what people settle for when they cannot have everything else. We have ambition, success, and compatibility. That is more valuable than some fairy tale emotion. After they said goodbye, Damien lay in his enormous bed, staring at the ceiling. Somewhere across the city, Colette was probably in her small studio, creating beautiful things with her hands and following her dreams despite the fear. And Damien realized that he envied her courage more than he had ever envied anything in his life. Tomorrow, he would meet her at the bridge. Tomorrow, everything might change. The question was whether he had the courage to let it. Damien arrived at the Ponte Arts 15 minutes early, something he never did for business meetings. The famous bridge stretched across the Seine, its metal railings once covered in lovelocks until the city removed them. Now it stood clean and open. A place of possibility rather than promises. Colette appeared exactly at noon, wearing a flowing sundress in deep emerald green and comfortable walking shoes. Her hair was loose today, dark curls catching the sunlight. She carried a canvas bag over her shoulder and smiled when she saw him waiting. "You came," she said, seeming genuinely surprised. "Did you think I would not?" "Honestly. I thought you might wake up this morning and remember all the reasons why spending time with a stranger was a bad idea." Colette joined him at the railing, looking out over the river. "Especially a stranger who asks uncomfortable questions. Maybe I need more uncomfortable questions in my life." Damien found himself smiling more easily than he had in months. "So, where are we going?" "Everywhere and nowhere. I am going to show you the Paris that belongs to people who live here. Not the Paris that belongs to guidebooks." A different Paris. They started in the Latin Quarter. Wandering through narrow streets where bookshops, spilled onto sidewalks and small galleries, displayed works by unknown artists. Colette knew the owners of many shops. Greeting them in fluent French that impressed Damien, "You speak beautifully?" he observed as they left a tiny art supply store where Colette had purchased some special fabric dyes. "I had to learn. When I first arrived, I could barely order coffee without embarrassing myself. But my neighbor, Madame Beaumont, decided to adopt me. She is 83 and believes that no one should live in France without speaking proper French. So every Tuesday evening, she teaches me while I help her organize her button collection." Her button collection. Colette laughed. She has been collecting buttons since 1952. Thousands of them, each with a story. Some came from her mother's wedding dress, some from her husband's military uniform, some from dresses she made for her daughters. She says buttons are like memories you can hold in your hand. Damien tried to imagine Vanessa spending an evening sorting buttons with an elderly neighbor. The image would not form. Vanessa's idea of community involvement was attending charity galas where photographers were guaranteed. They stopped for lunch at a small bistro, where the menu was written in chalk and changed daily. The owner, a cheerful man named Philippe, kissed Colette on both cheeks and insisted on bringing them his special duck confit. "So tell me about your company," Colette said as they ate. "What does Sinclair Tech actually do?" Damien found himself explaining his work with genuine enthusiasm, describing how his company developed software that helped other businesses reduce their carbon footprint. Colette asked intelligent questions, making connections between his technology and her sustainable fashion work. "We are not so different, you and I," she observed. "We both believe in creating things that make the world better. You just do it with code, and I do it with fabric. Except you followed your dream while I stumbled into mine and then got trapped by its success." Colette set down her fork, her expression serious. "Damien, can I ask you something personal?" "You can ask me anything. Why are you marrying Vanessa?" The question hung between them like a challenge. Damien took a long sip of wine, buying time to formulate an answer that made sense even to himself. Because it made sense. "We met at a charity function 3 years ago. She was beautiful, ambitious, understood the demands of my lifestyle. Everyone said we were perfect together. My board loved her because she brought positive publicity. Her manager loved me because I elevated her brand. It felt like the logical next step. That is the most unromantic proposal story I have ever heard." Colette's voice was gentle, not judgmental. "Where was the magic? The moment when you knew you could not live without her? I suppose I thought magic was something from movies, not real life." "Oh, Damien." Colette reached across the table and squeezed his hand briefly. "Magic is the only thing that makes real life worth living." The studio after lunch, Colette surprised him by offering to show him her workspace. They climbed 5 flights of stairs in an old building in Montmartre, merging into a bright studio with slanted ceilings and windows overlooking the city. The space was organized chaos. Fabrics in every color draped over furniture and hung from racks. Sketches covered one entire wall. A vintage sewing machine sat on a sturdy table, surrounded by threads, buttons, and tools Damien could not name. But it was the atmosphere that struck him most. This was a place where dreams took physical form. This is incredible, Damien said, walking slowly around the room. You created all of this yourself? With help from friends and a lot of determination, Colette picked up a half-finished dress in midnight blue silk. This is for a client's anniversary. She has been married 40 years and wanted something that made her feel beautiful and powerful. I am making it from vintage silk I found at a flea market and dyeing it with natural indigo. Can I ask you something now? Damien watched her work, mesmerized by the certainty of her movements. Of course. Are you happy? Truly happy, not just content or satisfied. Colette considered the question carefully, setting down the dress. Most days, yes. I wake up excited to work. I go to sleep tired, but fulfilled. I worry about money constantly, and sometimes I eat pasta for a week straight because I spent my food budget on fabric. But I have never once regretted choosing this life over the safe one I left behind. She turned to face him directly. Happiness is not the absence of problems, Damien. It is knowing that the problems you have are worth solving because you are working towards something that matters to you. The confession as the afternoon stretched into evening. They walked along the Seine, watching street performers and artists. Damien found himself talking about things he never discussed. His childhood as the scholarship kid at an elite prep school. The pressure to succeed that drove him to build his company. The loneliness that came with always being the smartest person in the room. You know what I think? Colette said as they paused to watch the sun set over Notre Dame. I think you are afraid that if you stop performing, stop achieving, stop being perfect, people will see who you really are and be disappointed. The observation hit so close to home that Damien actually flinched. And who am I really? A man who wants to be known, not just admired. A man who craves connection, not just success. A man who is terrified that the life he built is not actually the life he wants. Damien stared at the ancient cathedral, its stone walls glowing gold in the dying light. What if you are right? What if I have spent 20 years building the wrong life? Then you have a choice. You can keep building it because it is too late to start over. Or you can be brave enough to admit you want something different. His phone buzzed. Multiple messages from Vanessa, photos of wedding dress options, questions about the guest list, reminders about upcoming events. Each message felt like another brick in a wall he had built around himself. I should get back to my hotel, Damien said reluctantly. I have calls scheduled with New York, of course. Colette smiled, but something sad lingered in her eyes. Thank you for today, Damien. It was lovely. Can I see you tomorrow? Damien, I need to be honest with you. I like you. More than I should, given that you are engaged. And spending time with you feels dangerous, because every hour we spend together makes it harder to remember why we should not. I feel the same way. Then maybe we should stop now, before anyone gets hurt? But even as she said it, they both knew it was already too late for that. The unexpected arrival, Damien returned to his hotel to find chaos in the lobby. Photographers crowded the entrance. Security guards tried to maintain order. And in the center of it all stood Vanessa Pierce, wearing a white designer suit and her most practiced smile. Darling, she spotted him immediately, rushing over with arms outstretched. Surprise. Damien felt his stomach drop. Vanessa, what are you doing here? I missed you, of course. And I realized that Paris is too romantic to waste. So I canceled my shoots and flew here to be with you. She kissed him for the cameras, her lips cold against his. I've already checked us into the presidential suite. Wait until you see it. Hotel staff ushered them through the lobby. Damien caught sight of Vanessa's assistant struggling with 8 pieces of luggage. Vanessa had not come for a surprise romantic visit. She had come with an agenda in the suite. Vanessa immediately began arranging her things, transforming the space into her territory. I spoke to the summit organizers. They are thrilled I am here. We have been invited to the opening night gala tomorrow. I already have the perfect dress. We will be photographed together, and it will be amazing for both our brands. Vanessa, I came here early to have some quiet time. Quiet time? She laughed, refreshing her lipstick in a gilded mirror. Darling, we are getting married in 5 months. We do not have time for quiet. We have a wedding to plan, a future to build. And Paris is the perfect backdrop for our next Instagram campaign. Damien watched her move through the suite with military efficiency. making calls, arranging interviews, scheduling appearances. She had turned their relationship into a project, complete with timelines and deliverables. His phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. It was Colette. "I hope your evening improved. Sleep well, Damien. Thank you again for a perfect day." The contrast between the two women could not have been clearer. One saw him as a brand asset. The other saw him as a person worth knowing. "Who are you texting?" Vanessa appeared behind him, her eyes sharp. "It's just my assistant confirming tomorrow's schedule." "Good, because tomorrow night at the gala, we are announcing our wedding date publicly. I already alerted the press. This is going to be spectacular." As Vanessa continued planning their future, Damien realized he was standing at a crossroads. One path led to safety, success, and a life that looked perfect from the outside. The other led to uncertainty, risk, and the possibility of something real. He thought of Colette's question, where was the magic? And he realized he had found it today. Walking through Paris with a woman who saw him as more than his achievements, the question was whether he had the courage to choose magic over safety. Damien woke before dawn. Careful not to disturb Vanessa, who slept in the suite's master bedroom. He had spent the night on the sofa, claiming jet lag. But the truth was simpler. He could not bring himself to share a bed with her while his thoughts were consumed by someone else. He made coffee and stood on the balcony, watching Paris come alive beneath a pearl gray sky. Somewhere in this city, Colette was probably starting her day, perhaps sketching new designs or sipping tea while the morning light filled her studio. His phone showed 17 missed calls from his assistant and a calendar full of summit obligations. The gala was tonight, where Vanessa planned to announce their wedding date to the international press. After that, there would be no turning back. The machinery of their public relationship would grind forward, pulling him along whether he wanted to go or not. There you are. Vanessa emerged onto the balcony wearing silk pajamas and holding her own coffee. "I have been thinking about the announcement tonight. We should coordinate our outfits. I am wearing red, so you should wear your navy Tom Ford. We will look incredible together, Vanessa. We need to talk about the announcement. I know it is fast, but trust me, the timing is perfect. My follower count is at an all-time high, and your company just landed that sustainability award. We are at peak marketability. That's exactly what I want to talk about. This marriage, our relationship, when did it become about marketability instead of love?" Vanessa set down her coffee carefully, her expression cooling. "Damien, what is this really about? Did something happen while I was in New York?" "I met someone." The words hung in the air between them. Vanessa's face remained perfectly composed, but her knuckles whitened around her coffee cup. "You met someone," she repeated, her voice dangerously calm. "In 3 days, you met someone who made you question a 3-year relationship. It is not about the time. It is about what I felt. What I have not felt with you in months, maybe ever. And what did you feel? Let me guess. Chemistry, connection, the thrill of something new and forbidden." Vanessa's laugh was bitter. "Damien, you are having a midlife crisis. This mystery woman is just a distraction, a fantasy that feels exciting because it is not real life. What if she is more real than anything I have had in years?" Vanessa turned to face him fully, her beautiful features hardening into something calculating and cold. "Then you are a fool. You are willing to throw away everything we built, all our plans, our future, for what? A woman you barely know? Do you even understand what you are risking?" "I understand that I am risking a life that looks perfect but feels empty. Empty." Vanessa's voice rose for the first time. "You call what we have empty? We have success, influence, respect. We are building an empire together that is worth more than some romantic fantasy. Not to me. Not anymore." The silence that followed felt final. Vanessa stood perfectly still. Damien watched her process the information with the strategic mind that had made her famous. When she spoke again, her voice was cold and controlled. "If you do this, if you embarrass me by calling off our engagement, I will destroy you. My publicist will make sure every media outlet knows that Damien out. Sinclair dumped his fiancée for a cheap affair in Paris. Your reputation, your company, everything you have worked for will be tainted by scandal. That is your choice. But I cannot marry you, Vanessa. It would be unfair to both of us. Unfair. She grabbed her phone, already typing furiously. You have not seen unfair yet. By the time I am done, no one will want to work with you. You will be known as the CEO who could not keep his personal life together. Is your mystery woman worth that? Damien thought of Colette's smile, the way she looked at him like he mattered beyond his bank account. He thought of yesterday, walking through Paris and feeling truly alive for the first time in years. Yes, he said quietly. She is. The decision after Vanessa stormed out, packing her 8 suitcases and making furious phone calls to her team. Damien sat alone in the suddenly quiet suite. His phone immediately began buzzing with messages from colleagues, board members, and friends who had clearly already heard Vanessa's version of events. But instead of panicking, Damien felt something unexpected. Relief. He picked up his phone and called the summit organizers, withdrawing from tonight's gala. Then he called his assistant and cleared his schedule for the next 3 days. Finally, he sent a simple text to Colette. Can we talk? I have something important to tell you. Her response came quickly. Meet me at Caf des Raves in 1 hour. The Caf Colette was already there when Damien arrived. Sitting at the same corner table where they had first met, she looked nervous, twisting a napkin between her fingers. I saw the news, she said as he sat down. Vanessa posted on Instagram that your engagement is off. She implied you had an affair. I did not have an affair. But I did end my engagement because of me. Because of me. Damien reached across the table, taking her hands in his. Because I realized I was about to marry someone I did not love, while being unable to stop thinking about someone I barely know, but want to know everything about. Tears filled Colette's eyes. Damien, this is crazy. We have spent 2 days together. How can you append your entire life based on 2 days? Because those 2 days were more honest than the last 3 years? Because when I am with you, I remember who I wanted to be before I became obsessed with success. Because you asked me where the magic was and I realized I had found it with you. But the scandal, your reputation, what this will cost you, let it cost whatever it costs. I've spent my entire adult life making safe choices, building a safe life, choosing safe people, and I have been miserable. I would rather risk everything for something real than waste another year on something comfortable. Colette pulled her hands back, wiping her eyes. I need you to understand something. I will not be your rebound. I will not be the woman you run to because your engagement fell apart. If we do this, if we actually try to build something together, I need to know it is because you want me, not because you are running from her. I want you, Damien said without hesitation. I want your honesty, your passion, your courage. I want to know everything about you, from your button-collecting neighbor to your favorite fabric to what you dream about at night. I want to be someone who deserves your time, your attention, your heart. That is a lot to promise after 2 days. Then give me more days. Give me weeks, months, years. Let me prove that this is not a fantasy or a crisis. Let me show you that sometimes magic is not just something from movies. Sometimes it is real, and sometimes it is worth fighting for. 6 months later, the small gallery in Montmartre buzzed with conversation and champagne. Colette's first solo fashion show was a triumph. With designs displayed on dress forms throughout the space like works of art, fashion, journalists, and sustainable lifestyle bloggers crowded around each piece. Taking photos and asking questions, Damien stood near the back. Watching Colette work the room with natural grace, she wore one of her own creations, a dress in deep midnight blue that moved like water when she walked. Her curly hair was styled elegantly, and her face glowed with genuine joy. She is something special, said Madame Beaumont, who had become Damien's French tutor as well. You are lucky to have found her. I am lucky she gave me a chance, Damien replied. The past 6 months had not been easy. Vanessa had made good on her threats, giving interviews that painted Damien as unstable and impulsive. His board had called emergency meetings, worried about the impact on company reputation. Some friends had taken sides, choosing Vanessa's glamorous world over his uncertain new path. But Damien had also discovered who his real friends were. His company's stock had dipped briefly before recovering stronger than ever as clients appreciated his authenticity. And most importantly, he had learned what it felt like to be in a relationship built on trust, respect, and genuine affection. Colette caught his eye across the gallery and smiled. The same radiant smile that had stopped his heart 6 months ago in a tiny cafe. She made her way through the crowd to him, slipping her hand into his. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "About bridges," Damien said, pulling her close. "About how sometimes you have to cross them to find what you have been looking for." "And what were you looking for?" "This. You. A life that feels real instead of performed. Magic." Colette laughed, the sound as beautiful as the first time he heard it. "Well, you found it. Along with a very stubborn woman who is going to challenge you every single day." "Good," Damien said, kissing her softly. "I would not want it any other way." As the gallery celebration continued around them, Damien thought about the man he had been 6 months ago, successful, engaged, and profoundly unhappy. That man had been terrified of risk, of uncertainty, of choosing passion over safety. But that man had also been brave enough to walk into a small cafe, to talk to a stranger, to admit when his life was not working. That man had learned that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is play it safe. "I love you," he whispered to Colette. "I love you too," she whispered back. "Even though you are still terrible at speaking French." "I am working on it. Madame Beaumont says I am improving." "She is being kind, but that is okay. You have other qualities." They stood together, watching people admire the designs Colette had created with her own hands, built from nothing but talent and determination and dreams that scared her. Damien had learned to build dreams that scared him too. He had left his luxury Manhattan penthouse and moved to a smaller apartment in Brooklyn, close to Colette's new studio there. He still ran his company, but with renewed passion. Focusing on projects that truly mattered, his phone buzzed with a message from his assistant. The merger deal closed. "Congratulations, sir. Also, your mother called. She says to tell Colette hello and to ask when you two are coming for dinner." Damien smiled, showing the message to Colette. "My mother is lobbying for another visit." "I like your mother. She told me embarrassing stories about your childhood. That is exactly why I am worried about you spending time together." As they laughed together, surrounded by art and possibility, Damien realized something profound. He had not given up his old life for this new one. He had simply stopped pretending to be someone he was not. Success was still important to him, but not at the cost of authenticity. Ambition still drove him, but toward goals that fed his soul rather than just his bank account. And love, real love, turned out to be worth every risk, every sacrifice, every moment of uncertainty. "Ready to go home?" Colette asked as the gallery began to empty. "With you?" "Always." They walked out into the Paris night, hand in hand. Two people who had been brave enough to choose magic over safety, honesty over perfection, and love over everything else. And they lived not happily ever after in some fairy tale sense, but really and fully and authentically ever after, which was so much better than any fantasy could ever be. The end.